Welcome back to Data Center News Asia. And as you can probably hear from my voice, I gave it a bit of a nudge over the last couple of weeks of industry international networking. So, James, I'm going to ask you a favor. If you can reel off do the starting headlines, and I'll do the comment bit if I've got enough voice left for this week.
Yeah.
How's that sound?
Okay. Yeah. Sounds good. We don't subject people to your haggard voice if they don't have to hear it. We're doing it. So this is a 2-week special, except we're dividing it by geographies as we've done previously, just to ensure that no one's missing. So we're going to kick things off with an Australia and India episode before you'll see a second episode, which is everywhere else across the region. So first, we're going to go to Australia. This story is about 2 weeks old, but it's a really significant one you may have missed, just given that it was maybe not one of your locations you may be keeping an eye on. And from a firm you may not be keeping an eye on, certainly if you're in APAC. And this was IREN targeting an 800 megawatt campus in Bundy, which is outside of Adelaide. Rhys, what you know about this?
Yeah, this is a crazy amount of capacity, but then these neocloud orders are very big. I saw the IREN story and was trying to meet with some of these guys it turned out they were up in Taiwan for the GTC event with NVIDIA. But yeah, I didn't see any word of the operator who's going to be, or the developer who's going to be building this. Because if you look at the ones they've done in Spain and in Europe, there is usually a group of partner organizations together. But we know that their main off-taker or main customer is typically Microsoft, which could also mean OpenAI or other. There's a lot of interlocking, obviously, in these AI deals.
Yeah, it's interesting. So yeah, to your point, Microsoft is certainly cited as a major customer here. A couple of sites, primarily in the US and Canada, which is where they've got developments. So Texas is cited, Oklahoma, BC in Canada, Prince George and Canal Flats. That is BC. And they claim to have a pipeline of 5 gigawatts. What's also interesting here is I've never actually heard this terminology, but 23,000 GPUs in its fleet. This is apparently how you describe GPUs. But yeah,
lead 7, 8, or 10,000 is the cutoff.
Yeah, I don't know how that naming convention has come about. But yeah, as I always say, it's definitely one to watch this, and it would really put Adelaide on the map in terms of DC developments, because this is 800 megawatts is about half of the entire capacity of Australia right now.
Yes, South Australia is not typically a hotspot, and Bundy, although again, following the typical kind of crypto mining into AI mining route, this Bundy is, I think, in a sort of mining kind of area.
Sounds like a mining town, Bundy.
Yeah, exactly. Let's not get too Aussie racist. They always get hot in the comments. What's the next one?
Shall we go to Blue Owl stepping up efforts to sell stack?
Yes. Okay. So this was in the AFR, and previously there were rumors reported. We always sprinkle them in salt when Bloomberg talk about it. Crazy numbers. And I say crazy numbers with no disrespect to the incredible accomplishments of the Stack team over the last couple of years, but $30 billion does seem like a massive escalation from last year's valuations of STT and AirTrunk, but then Stack do a pretty impressive pipeline.
Yeah, they've developed a significant amount of capacity across a number of the more, or let's say the not necessarily more attractive, but the more premium markets, if you want to call them that. So obviously Australia, being where they've had the most success, but Japan and their project in Malaysia is also moving along at pace now. So AFR, like I said, not always wild on their data center reporting. So let's wait and see what comes out. Mentioned that bankers Morgan Stanley and Deutsche Bank are helping to sell this piece. And yeah, it really would be interesting. It will be interesting to see if they can get in or around that 30 billion mark, which is now being cited widely across the press and industry.
Yeah, one of many big raises happening at the moment. I think that let's see what shakes out in the wash by the end of the year.
Yeah, next, shall we go to Stockland? The second data center site or campus, I should say, that they've announced in pretty quick succession in Melbourne.
Yes, and I think, I'm not sure of the two on the map so I'm looking at the DCD article here, not the original filing. So I'm not sure of the two sites they've put on the map are the two applications they put side by side or whether there's different sites, because they, on their initial announcement of their JV with EdgeConneX, or their working together, they put some sites in Sydney as well as Melbourne. I haven't kept track of exactly which one's lap with which.
Yeah, so I'm just reading it now. I'm actually confusing myself. Why are we duplicating this story, or is this a fresh story? Sorry, they've got us. Anyway, they're talking about 250 megawatts at 412 Francis Street in Brooklyn, which is the Brooklyn Distribution Center.
Yeah, so I think it's two separate applications side by side. So one's 250 and one's 350, but it's quite a confusing layout. This is all part of that kind of downtown redevelopment. Or downtown, the former industrial logistics areas being redeveloped in Melbourne, which is, we do love a good brownfield development and reinvigorating some of these lost suburbs.
So is this, okay, so it looks like it's just basically two sites literally side by side.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay, sorry, I see it. Yeah, it's, okay, sorry, slightly confusing. That's me being picked, though. Yeah, so anyway, another 250 megawatts following on from what they announced a month or so ago, and also then following on from that site they announced in Kemps Creek, which is western-ish Sydney. Yeah, so interesting to watch this. Obviously, the EdgeConneX announcements and all in the not-so-distant past. You'd expect that they'll likely be the operator behind this project. Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, there you go. That would bring them, you add all these up together, that would bring them up to about 700 megawatts that they're touting across all the different sites. So we'll see how much of this gets sorted and how quickly it gets built. And there's one more in Australia before we go into India. I think I saw something about a Singaporean phosphate company.
Yeah, I didn't bother tracking that one. So shall we move to India via AirTrunk?
Yes, let's go to India. All right.
Yes. Anyway, government of Maharashtra in Western India have signed an LOI with AirTrunk for a $21 billion data center deal. So this is 200 billion rupees. MOU. So, okay, it is non-binding, but this is essentially a massive campus, it sounds like, where once completed will be potentially 3 gigawatts of IT. And I think if you were keeping an eye on LinkedIn and AirTrunk activity, you would have seen Robin over with President Modi, which I'm assuming was obviously the same trip. So yeah, it's AirTrunk at scale now in India.
Yeah, this is pretty insane, isn't it? When you think even the acquisition they've made to Lumina, and Lumina itself being 300 megawatts, AirTrunk's entire portfolio outside of India prior to this is significantly smaller than it. So this is the scale of these construction projects is going to be off the chart, and it's going to cause probably some rethinking to how they do all of their things like procurement contracting and how they do their development process. And AirTrunk have been ahead of the curve on some of those areas compared to other developers around the region over the year. But this is another step change in mega projects now.
Yeah, yes. If you're not talking gigawatts. Let's go to the meta story, shall we? Interesting piece of leasing here. So they've signed a deal for 168 megawatts of data center space at New Reliance Industries in Gujarat.
Yeah, and this is interesting because the way it's phrased is Reliance, and Reliance is of course part of Digital Connection, which is Digital Realty and Reliance, and there was published rumors, so we're not breaking anything here, that they had signed Meta for their 80 megawatt site. But then this is very much phrased as a Reliance data center, which is similar to how we've seen some of the Adani Connects and Adani stuff reported in India. But yeah, I didn't get any more clarity on that as to whether this is part of Digital Connection or whether this is a Reliance step out.
Yeah, it's not clear. Well, like Mukesh Ambani, he's the one talking about it. So yeah, I guess it's the Reliance Group. Yeah, which vehicle exactly that goes through, I think that's a wait and see. If you look at the article on DCD, there's a lovely photo of Mark Zuckerberg literally sliding down a slide, and they've attributed to him. So I don't know, maybe this is on his Instagram or whatever.
This is what the humans do.
Yeah. A robot would never do that. Yeah, so there you go. I urge you to check out that photo if you want to see a billionaire having a bit of fun.
So yeah, let's look at this Google Fire story, James, because I saw this on Reuters. Sorry, Google Cloud outage, not Google Fire. I'm completely misrepresenting that. A Google Cloud outage was caused by a third-party data center shutdown. When I was trying to work out who the third party was, I got my DC Byte out and I was looking through who Google have got presence with. I think I've got a couple of good guesses, but it's not announced. But we'll let people reach out to your team and get their own speculation on that one.
Yeah, like we do obviously have we do know which facility it is, but I think the language is very telling on the Google page. Yeah, so this is from Google Cloud Health Service. Fire at a third-party data center facility required an emergency power shutdown of networking equipment, isolating a non-compute local point of presence in Delhi. There you go. It's pop. That doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be significant cloud capacity. And I'm going to leave my commentary there because I don't get in trouble.
Yeah, no, I think the question that I had come back from both Kans and Bali actually was with the speed of these AI developments happening, it seemed, and the scale multiple, which you just talked about with the AirTrunk story, it seems that we're going to be probably hearing a lot more of these kind of stories and seeing what happens when you 10x everything and 10x the speed of it. And it'd be interesting to see who's got their risk mitigation correctly and who's planned their operations well.
Yeah, don't like reporting on those stories, obviously, but yeah, I think you could be right, and there could be more. That's enough for that 2 week roundup. Stay or watch the second one, which you have now, and the rest of the markets. Thanks, everyone.